apparently decided to kick us out for a brief moment.
I saw that. But so I don't do any panels or anything there. I'm just an attendee. But there's a friendly tournament that happens on the Friday of the con, which is friendly games of Warhammer are fun because nobody really cares. There are rules, but it's very lax. You don't get the stereotypical Warhammer player at a friendly. In fact, half of it is just hanging out drinking and pushing plastic around the table. Like it's just a ton of fun. And then they do, Amy and JF, and they have a couple other friends. They do the team tournament and they go all out. Like they'll wear costumes. They do a whole theme. I think one year I went, they have like giveaways, and they had like pamphlets. Their theme, they were like almost like Mormons. But they were in various stages of like one of them was very buttoned up. And then by the fourth guy, he had like his tie wrapped around his head and his shirt was all stained. And because the faction that they were playing, it fit that. But they had literature they were handing out and all sorts. Like they went all out. It's really impressive. And they do these big display boards, and just seeing that and seeing like all the paint jobs, all the painting work. And they have the Golden Demon, which is sort of the ultimate painting competition. They have a version of it there, and so you can go and see like the case of these. I look at some of these models and I'm like, I paint, but I don't know how you did that. Like one, I think it was 2 years ago, it was a vampire character, but they had him standing next to a lake, and the way they did it was it was a full 3-dimensional thing. So the reflection underneath, that would have been the reflection in the lake.
Yeah.
They set up so that the clothes were there, but there was no body inside of them.
Oh, because he's
create the reflect. Like it was just, I was gobsmacked. I could not believe how good this looked.
It is amazing how much detail some of these miniatures have. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get this party started. If you're tuning in live and you want to hear what started that conversation, head on over to patreon.com/wise_n_nerdy and toss us a buck or two and get the Patreon version that includes the pre-show and the post-show.
That's right.
You're listening to Wise and Nerdy, where fatherhood meets fandom.
Oh, yeah. That was a lot of fun having Dad Bod Veteran on. That's who did the intro right there.
Nice.
But as everyone else can tell, there is no Charles tonight. But with me today is the one, the only, the fabulous TVsTravis.
Hey, I'm here. You're getting a step sideways. We'll go with. I'll be nice.
So Travis is awesome. First time I met you was digitally, but in person was Dragon Con this past year, if I remember correctly, right?
2 years, two Dragon Cons ago.
Yeah, in passing, but really we didn't really talk much the previous Dragon Con.
No, not as much.
We sat down and actually spoke to each other this past year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, Dragon Con is an awesome place that I've met a ton of people that I only, talk to digitally other than once a year, but it's a fun time. It's a good fun.
I've got a couple of them now that I do because I go to Adepticon, and then there is Frog Pants meetups we've been doing in Las Vegas, and Nerdtacular is coming back for at least 1 year, which is the Frog Pants like con. And it's like this. You see these people once a year at these cons, but it's like a family reunion every time. It's great because you chat with them all year, but then you get into that one space. And I mean, Dragon Con, my first year was 2 years ago and it was wonderful. But then that second year, it's just a whole different feeling. Just seeing the faces and remembering them, and like walking down, going down a flight of stairs and just recognizing that area and being like, oh yeah, no, this is going to be home for the next week. It's fun.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely have to capitalize on the fact that the digital media track is in Galleria 6-7.
Yeah. It's funny. That whole thing cracks me up because it is dumb. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely dumb.
Yep.
But then I think back 20, 30 years when I was a kid and we did dumb shit like that too. Like there was the dumb things we did that made no sense, that had no meaning. We're the old heads dealing with it. So
yeah. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started with
question of the week.
And the question of the week this week is, what holiday treats hit differently now that you've grown up?
Holiday treats that hit differently. I'll tell you 2 that hit differently for me. Fruitcake.
Oh, see, I've never been a fan of fruitcake. Do you like fruitcake?
A well-made fruitcake, really, really good.
Okay.
You can still get bad fruitcake. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, maybe I just haven't had a good one.
Yeah, but it's quite possible. Like, I don't like the fruitcakes that have like the neon green and red candies in them, like things. But you can get with real good dried fruit in there, and it's not just a doorstop with some fruit and nuts in it. It's actual, like, it's dense, but it's good. That's one I definitely didn't appreciate when I was a kid. The other one is eggnog. I didn't love eggnog, but I had, again, some really good homemade eggnog. And I was like, oh, this is what this is supposed to be like. Okay. And now, like, even the store-bought cartons aren't bad. And I don't mind it this time of year. But that was one, as a kid, I wanted nothing to do with that.
Yeah, and see, eggnog is one of those things that either you love it or you hate it. There's very few people that I've talked to that are just like, it's okay. It's just one of those things that, my wife is not a huge fan of how thick most eggnog is, and so she'll actually put milk in hers to thin it out a bit, which I think is fairly common with people who have that same issue, because it can be pretty thick, pretty dense. But no, I like me some eggnog. It is some good stuff. For me, it's got to be, what hits differently is the store-bought versus homemade cookies. Growing up, like, I would just chow down on all of those processed cookies. And like, especially if you go to like a holiday party or whatever, and there's the store-bought stuff and then there's the homemade stuff. As a kid, I always gravitated towards the store-bought stuff. As an adult, it's like, no, I'm going for that homemade stuff.
All day. I mean, so some of that you want to think is like palate refining as you get older, and as a kid, you just want, like, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's just got to be sweet, and those store-bought ones tend to be a lot sweeter.
Yeah.
And it's a familiar taste. But yeah, although I will say the Danish butter cookies, the sewing kit that comes with cookies inside of it, those are great. And I was actually in Costco this past weekend, and I walked by, they were selling 4 packs of those. And I was like, I cannot buy that because I will just eat all of the cookies in like a week. I can't, that's dangerous. But
my wife put in the chat, it helps that your wife is an awesome baker. Lol.
That doesn't hurt.
It is true. Every year my wife makes usually about 5 to 6 different types of cookies, and she'll make enough that I can share it with like my coworkers and stuff. So I'll make goodie basket. Well, I make the goodie boxes, more like I deliver the ones that she has painstakingly made. And so, yeah, we'll give it out to friends and coworkers and people at church and stuff. We'll give a whole bunch, but I always make it very clear that all I do is keep the kids away from her while she does her thing.
That can be important, though. I just thought of another one, and this one is less. It hits different now. and it's not a traditional like everybody has this holiday treat, but it was for my family growing up, and it's peanut brittle.
Oh yeah.
And it hits differently for me now because it was never my favorite thing, and I never loved it growing up, and I still don't like. I'm not going to seek out peanut brittle, but why it hits different for me is that was the thing my grandmother made every year.
Oh, okay.
And she would make that, and it was my dad would always get some, and that was his favorite thing. And ever since my grandma has passed, it just hits different now when I see peanut brittle, especially homemade peanut brittle.
Yeah. See, when I think peanut brittle, I actually think of NASCAR races. Because my dad had a race car for a long time when we were living in Washington State, and I've mentioned this a few times on the show. Charles calls my dad Papa NASCAR because of it. But at the track there, they sold peanut brittle that they made. They made their homemade peanut brittle, and we'd get it not every single time, but a lot of times we would get a little bit of peanut brittle while watching the races. And so my food memory when it comes to peanut brittle is spending time with my family watching the races and rooting for our race car.
Nice.
So
that's cool. I love associations like that. Those things that take you back to a specific time or place.
Yeah. Well, and I find that happens to me a lot with music as well.
Mm-hmm.
That'll just transport me back to different moments in my life where that particular music I either listened to a bunch because it was on the radio or just because I listened to it a bunch.
Yep.
Like for instance, and this is going off on a bit of a tangent, but for instance, when I was first reading the Harry Potter series, my mom had Enya on repeat. And so whenever I hear Enya, it always makes me think of Harry Potter.
There you go.
Because of that association.
See, that's a good one. Mine, one that always comes to mind for me is there's a specific song from 311 called You Wouldn't Believe. And that exact song takes me back to the summer of, I want to say it was either 02 or 03. And specifically hanging out with some friends of mine where we would drive out to a beach and spend the day out there, like grilling and practicing martial arts on the beach and swimming and all of this kind of stuff. And that, like, I can picture where we parked the cars, where the path we walked down to the beach. And it was this little like beach that nobody went to kind of thing. But the second I hear that song, the opening guitar lick, and it takes me right there.
Yeah. Well, we have gone off on a bit of a tangent. So let's go ahead and
roll that dice.
All right.
Ooh. We got a 6 and a 4. Which one do you want?
Oh, let's do a 6.
All righty.
Bad dad joke.
Charles's favorite segment,
yes.
Bad dad jokes. Rumor has it you've got a few primed up and ready for us.
I might have one or two. Did you hear about the claustrophobic astronaut?
No, I did not.
He needed some space.
He sure did.
Yeah,
he sure did.
I just spent a bunch of my money on a belt that doesn't fit. It was a huge waste.
Oh, see, that's why I get the belts with holes along all of it.
Yep.
Where I don't have to worry. I just got to worry if it's big enough, and then I don't have to worry about the sizing after that.
Yeah.
What do Attila the Hun, Alexander the Great, and Winnie the Pooh have in common?
I don't know.
Same middle name.
Oh. I had a feeling it was going to do something along those lines, but still wasn't prepared.
I accidentally drank a bottle of invisible ink last night. Now I'm sitting in the ER waiting to be seen.
Oh. Hey, do you know why the blind miner fell down the well?
Why?
Because he couldn't see that well.
Oh, and here I thought you were gonna talk about Steve for a moment. He craves the mines. Oh man, I really wish Charles was here. He would be.
I do too. He
He'd
would
be
just be
throwing
loving
his
it.
headphones left and right. It'd be awesome. But let's go ahead and
roll the dice of destiny.
Destiny. All right, 4 or a 1.
Well, we did a 6. Let's do a 1. Do the opposite side.
All right.
What are you nerding about?
What are you nerding about, or what are you nerding out about? Since my son skipped the out.
What I have been nerding out about lately is lo-fi microphones, specifically like taking old tech, like an old phone or something, and turning it into a microphone I can run into my mixer and play around with. Use those old capsules. There's a litany of videos you can find on YouTube on how to do that, but you take like an old, desk phone, and it's got the carbon microphone in the mouthpiece, and then it's also the speaker end of the handset can be used as a microphone, because those old speakers are just a microphone in reverse. So you just wire that up, and you can have this nice lo-fi microphone. And you see people will use it to get that lo-fi kind of almost AM radio sound, that old telephone sound, or you can record sounds with it too, not just your voice. Might give you like just an interesting feel to like a guitar track or drums or something like that. And so that's been like my nerding out lately, is figuring out, because
so how much work goes into modding those to make it compatible with? So are you modding them to be XLR inputs into your mixer?
Yes. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. The easiest way is you snip a couple of wires, and then you just solder the 2 wires coming off of the handset speaker into a 1/4 inch or an XLR, and boom, you've got a microphone. If you want to use the mouthpiece part of the handset, you actually have to run some phantom power to it, because those old carbon mics needed power, and they would draw power through the phone line. But they do have a slightly different like frequency range, and they do sound a little bit different. So you do actually get 2 different sounds from each end of it. One of the things that I'm going to try, because I've got a phone coming to me that actually my ex's mom had, like, just in a basement. It's an old rotary phone. But the cool thing about those is, like, you can try to tap into the phone itself. And what I'm hoping I can do is, instead of taking the wiring out of the handset, I want to wire into the base unit.
Okay.
So that, I believe if I do it right, putting the handset back on the hook will effectively turn off the microphone.
Okay, have it be a power switch.
So it's like a power switch, or almost like a mute switch, and it will, when you pick it up, it will turn it on. And what I'll do is I'll make a wire into the base unit, and I'll do the wiring for the phantom power and all of that, make a little circuit, but have a switch on it, so I can switch between the 2 different sides. So I can have one side be, and then the other side I flip, and I just have to make sure phantom power's on my mixer. But then I'll have the 2 different mics there. So it's just been like, once I get it in my hands, it's going to be a lot of fun. Because a few weeks back, I made this little radio. So I found an old, like, Bakelite GE radio, tube radio at a antique store. Which, real quick tangent, this antique store is great because it is literally 4 floors in a building of just stuff. There is just, I mean, you can find old coins, you can find military uniforms, you can find telephones, you can find video games, and there's no rhyme or reason for where anything is. There's just like piles of things everywhere, and tables of stuff, and old record players, and like, it's great. So I'm just wandering around in there, and I found this old tube radio, and it said, oh, it's $25. It doesn't work. I'm like, I like the look of it. So I took it home, and I took the tubes out, but the speaker still worked.
Okay, all right.
And I was like, all right, well, so it's got a speaker in it. So what I did was, and I'd found this guide in this video, this guy had made something similar, is a little circuit board MP3 player. and it literally just plays MP3s off of a micro SD card, or you can set it up with a like a USB drive. And it has on the board the buttons for play, pause, skip, forward, and backward. But if you don't do anything with it, if you just put an SD card in and put power to it, it will just start playing whatever's on the SD card.
Okay.
And it will play it in a continuous loop. And so I took that and I wired it into a little amp that had a switch on it to turn on and off. And then I wired the amp into the speaker. And so it effectively gives me a radio that I can turn off, but will continue playing whatever is stored on the card. And when I turn it back on, it just picks up and you just start hearing whatever's going. So it's like having an actual radio that I have no control over. I just put a bunch of files on the card and now it's playing all the time. And so I loaded it up with I found on the Internet Archive, they had old episodes of Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. And I grabbed a lot of the Halloween episodes where it would be all ghost stories for 4 hours. And I got old episodes of The Shadow and 0 Hour with Rod Serling. And then I found I grabbed a bunch of the radio pieces from Alan Wake, the video game, of the Pat Maine radio hour, which were these in-universe radio bits that you would find when you would be out wandering and there'd be a radio playing. I downloaded a bunch of that and I put it on there and some different songs, and I just made this radio station and it just plays continuously. And so I took this old radio, I stripped it down and I repainted it. And so it's this really cool kind of metallic black look now. And I just have this radio. And when I go to bed at night, I turn it on and it's whatever's playing is what I fall asleep to. And sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm woke up to Rod Serling's voice talking about it's a little jarring, but I've gotten used to it. But that was that's what kind of put me down this path. Was I saw this thing and I'm taking these old, these old tech things and repurposing them in a way that is both modern but a retro thing too.
Yeah. Well, what this makes me sad in some respects, because the tech that's coming out now, because there's such an extreme emphasis on planned obsolescence and companies being able to brick stuff remotely, we won't be able to have nearly the amount of opportunities of repurposing and retrofitting things like that in the future with current tech. And so, I was just thinking, 20, 30 years down the line, a lot of the stuff that's coming out nowadays, you couldn't even come close to doing anything like that with it because they've made stuff harder to repair. They've locked stuff down. They've made it brickable remotely. And so it makes me appreciate older tech and that older tech mindset that much more, because they had a focus on simplicity and repairability and just making stuff that worked.
Yeah. And it was a different, obviously manufacturing tech was different. They couldn't make things as small as they do now. Yeah. So that plays a big part into it, because one of the things that I will do with my job, I occasionally get old hardware back from our clients. And I like to tinker and pull it apart and see what's inside there and see what there is that I could maybe reuse and, have my little box of goodies. So I'll pull batteries out of stuff. I'll pull little speakers out of it. I keep trying to figure out ways that I can use. We get these LCD touchscreens and I want to figure out a method to repurpose that, because I think that I could do something with it with either an Arduino or a Raspberry Pi or whatever. I just have to figure out the interfacing, the connections between them. But it is true that the stuff that's coming out today that isn't sort of that retro feel is going to be much more difficult to do anything with down the road because of all the reasons that you mentioned. And it is a bummer, but we do still have the old things. Plus, it's like working on an old car. There's nothing like pulling the guts out of an old radio. And I mean, literally, I pulled these tubes out and I have just all this empty space inside the radio because I put 2 little circuit boards. I just hot glued them onto a piece of MDF and put it in there and set it in place. But
Yeah, I see
It
that
worked.
hot glue gun behind you.
Yeah, yep. Tell you, it's a tinkerer's best friend right there. But yeah, it was a fun project, and so when this phone comes in, I'm going to have a lot of fun trying to. The other thing is, I like to try and keep the pieces as whole as possible, right? Whatever you're going to see. So I don't want to do a lot of necessarily case modifications to the phone, if I can help it. Like, I don't want to have to drill things out necessarily, depending on. But the other thing too is like projects like these are fun because you can do multiple iterations of it. I could make another different radio that I could, give to my parents and just have loaded with a bunch of old blues and stuff that my dad likes. So you can just have a radio you can turn on and whatever's playing is playing. There's something comforting about that where you don't have to sit down and make a decision about what you're going to listen to. You just turn it on and it's there.
Yeah.
And I like that. You could do a similar thing with a video type of situation too. I'm sure there would be a way to do that. I just love like the combination of modern day technology and either an old system or an old style or an old look. Like I saw a thing I would love to do. It's way above where I'm at now. This guy basically made a modern day VHS. He was using, I think they were SD cards, but he would load movies onto these cartridges, and he had a little reader. And so you could slide the cartridge into the reader, and then it would start playing the video on your TV.
Nice.
So you could have a library of movies. And I was like, that looks super fun. And I have a 3D printer and I might have to try making that. So these are the kinds of things I want to be able to do more, because I just love like tinkering and building and iterating and failing and having something not work. Because the first radio I tried didn't work at all. Because I was at a thrift shop. I found an old radio for like $5. I'm like, cool. This has a cool like late 80s, early 90s look. But it was too small inside for me to fit the components I needed to with the way it was laid out. And I'm sure with like a better power setup and ways to wire everything, I could have done it better. But by the time I got to the realization that I didn't have enough room inside the case for what I had already started cutting it apart. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm just going to keep the knobs off of here. And I ended up putting those on the other radio because I liked the look of them. So that's the kind of stuff I've been nerding out about lately, and has been my ADHD hyperfocus.
Nice. That's pretty awesome. I'd like to afterwards, if you have any like pictures and stuff, I'd like to see some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that'd be cool. For me, I'm nerding out about anime. We're gonna go with some anime.
Okay.
This season, and it's only 6 episodes deep right now. They've been premiering the My Hero Academia final season, quote unquote final season. That's how they're advertising it. Which I think it really is going to be the final season, unlike Attack on Titan, who they were like, this is the final season, part 1, final season, part 2, final season. Part, like they're like, it's the final season, but it's not really the final season type thing. But no, so it's going to be 24 episodes total. They're 6 episodes deep, and the animation has been spectacular. The action has been phenomenal. They've done a really, really good job of evoking emotion and depth, and bringing in little twists already. And it's only 6 episodes in so far. They've really been knocking it out of the park, in my opinion. And I'm hopeful that the next 18 episodes will give a satisfying conclusion to the series as a whole. But yeah, because so last season they did a spin-off kind of prequel, but not really a prequel, for My Hero Academia. And so I had been missing the main story, and getting back to it and whatnot. It's been wonderful. I know you don't do a whole lot of anime, but have you heard of My Hero? Or
I have heard of My Hero Academia. I have seen images of it. I've probably seen clips here and there. Anime and I have a weird relationship because I really enjoy when I watch it, but I don't dive into it as much as a lot of people do. And it's no reason other than I just have so much going on and so many things to watch, and I just don't have time. But every time I dive into one, I really, really enjoy it. But I also go like, some of that is sort of the memory thing, where when I think of anime, it takes me back to hanging out at my friend's house, where this was back in the days where I would literally take my PC, I would unhook it, and I would strap it into my car and drive over to his house for the weekend, set it up. We would LAN party for the weekend. Some other friends would come over maybe one night, but I'd be there for like 2 nights, and we'd just be watching anime or Doctor Who or Star Trek or whatever we decided we wanted to watch. And this was classic Doctor Who at the time. And play video games all weekend. So like my anime goes back to that. So it was like Toonami and watching, Inuyasha, Yu Yu Hakusho, which I found recently. I haven't watched the live action Yu Yu Hakusho.
Don't.
But I did start rewatching that series at some point, and it was one of those where I watched a few episodes and then got distracted by something else. But
yeah,
I hear great things about My
Yu
Hero.
Yu Hakusho is a good one.
I loved it.
It's one that a lot of people, it's because it's a little bit older. A lot of people who are newer to anime sleep on it. But yeah, so the live action,
Mhm.
Spoiler, not spoiler. They try to take the first 2 seasons of Inuyasha and condense it to 7 episodes.
Oh, see, that's tough, right?
Yeah.
Like I understand where you can condense some of those, especially those older series got a little stretched. But I mean, if you wanted to condense down some Dragon Ball Z, it's not that hard, right? You don't need half an hour of guys grunting and yelling
in an official version.
But yeah, that's the hard part is when you're, especially live action, you're only going to do so many episodes, but there's a built-in fan base for something like that. So don't, that's fumbling the ball on the 1 yard line. Like, don't do that. And
Charles is flabbergasted. You haven't seen My Hero Academia.
Of course.
So, but I guess for those who are unfamiliar with it, My Hero Academia is a world where like 90, it gives the percentage a few different times. I can't remember what it is. Like 85 or 90% of people around the world have an ability. They call them quirks.
Okay.
And so, people use it for their day-to-day jobs. The part of the problem though is in order to actively use your power, you have to have a license for it, usually a hero's license to use it day to day. And so, like, for instance, one of the characters, she has some gravity manipulation powers.
All right.
And she wants to become a hero to be able to use her powers to help with her family's construction business. Those gravity powers would come in pretty sweet
handy
on a construction site. But just, little things like that. And so using your powers outside of that can, depending on how you use it, you could be breaking the law and be labeled a villain and go to jail.
Okay.
But the main character, he does not have a power, but he still wants to become a hero, and he's desperate to become a hero. And it's got a lot of heart. It's a lot of fun. And I really like the character growth that you see in not just the main character, but a lot of the side characters as well. They do a really good job of making you appreciate not just the heroes and the side characters, but also the villains. They make you care about a lot of the villains as well. Not to the degree of Demon Slayer. Demon Slayer really makes you feel sorry for a lot of the villains, but they help you sympathize with the plight of a lot of these villains. So yeah, there's a lot of anime out there that's just lacking in substance. My Hero is not one of those. My Hero has a lot of character and substance and story to it. It's not quite as much depth as say Full Metal Alchemist, which is
Sure.
one of
Which is
my top tier.
that's one I
anime.
watched. In fact, when
Oh yeah.
when I watched Brotherhood, it threw me at first because I had watched the first series,
Yep.
and then I learned that like Brotherhood is a little closer to the original story and it doesn't diverge. And it took me a bit to adjust to that because that was one of those other ones that we watched a lot. Was
Yep. Yeah, well, because do you know why they've got two, right? You've heard the story behind that, or no?
I have, but remind me because it's been a little while.
So when they were making the first one, they caught up to the source material.
That's right.
And decided not to wait, and so they made up the rest of it.
Yep.
And so then years later, they came back and they kind of rushed through the beginning part of it until they got to the point where it would diverge, and then they Brotherhood stayed more accurate to the source material.
Yeah. Okay. I remember reading about that. Yeah.
Both are good, but the original series does go a little wonky. And for anyone who does watch the original series, because I like them both, I've watched them both multiple times. Make sure you watch the movie that comes after the series for the original, because it while it does go weird, it, in my opinion, has a more satisfying ending than how the series itself left off. But yeah, it does go a bit weird.
I mean, a lot of them do, but that's part of the charm. That's what I like about it is you can get weird and really explore something. This was a fun moment. Not that long ago, I think it was when I saw The Long Walk in the theater, and I'm sitting in the theater, and one of the trailers ahead of it was for Chainsaw Man, the movie.
I still haven't seen that yet. It's on my list.
And I wasn't watching the trailer. I was too busy watching the middle-aged group of people sitting a row in front of me and to my left, because they had no clue what was happening. They were so lost. You know what it was? It was in front of Tron. I went and saw Tron Ares, and people didn't know what was happening, and it was amazing. And then one of their group had gone out to get like a refill on popcorn or use a restroom or something, so they came in right after that, and I hear them talking to him about it, and I was just like, oh, they were about to have a meltdown. They're like, I'm not going to see that one.
So for those who are unfamiliar, Chainsaw Man features a person with a chainsaw for a head.
Yeah, no, it does exactly what it says on the tin. Like, it is a man in a chainsaw and a chainsaw man. It's very Trogdor the Burninator.
I've heard it's really good. I just
I have
haven't
too.
gotten around to watching it. I've watched some anime with some very strange premises before. So like one that I watched fairly recently, and actually it was season 2 of it, is one where a guy dies and is reincarnated in a fantasy world, but he's a vending machine.
Okay.
Sure. I watched it simply because I was like, how are they
right?
make
Yeah,
this?
No. That's when you read the 2 sentence and you're like, no, I gotta know. I have to know how they're doing this.
And the premise is ridiculous, and it's not great, but it was entertaining enough that I watched both of the seasons.
Yeah,
it was okay,
A for effort, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's not one that I'd be going around and be like, you gotta watch this,
right?
But it was all right. It was all right. But yeah. Oh man. But let's go ahead and see where we're going next.
Roll
all right.
that dice. Roll that dice. Roll that dice.
All right. We've been ignoring 4, so I guess we're going with 5.
All right. Yeah.
Type for a commercial break.
All right. So, with this commercial break, where can they find you, Travis?
You can find me pretty much everywhere as TVsTravis. I got a website, TVsTravis.com. It's got links to all my social medias, where I do occasionally post. It has a link to my Discord server and YouTube and all of that. And it's basically TVsTravis everywhere, whether it's Blue Sky. I'm still on Twitter, and YouTube and all of that. And it's where you can find all the various shows that I do, which is a lot of them. And I'm doing more, and I have problems. I have a podcasting addiction is what it is.
Yep. Yep. Well, we only have so many hours in the day.
Yeah, might as well fill them all.
I heard a Facebook short earlier making fun of guys. It was why do guys start a podcast instead of going to therapy? And I was like, wow.
I would say it's
like
cheaper, but it's really not. So
no, especially when you get into all the different tech that you have fun with.
Mhm.
But
yeah,
it's a lot more fun than therapy.
It is.
So, let's see. So the December 4th recording, the question of the week is going to be, what fictional universe would you want to raise kids in and why?
Okay.
And if you want to get in on that, you can head on over to wiseandnerdy.com/calldad and leave us a speak pipe and let us know where you would like to raise your kids. Which fictional universe?
I am very curious to hear some of these, and I will be judging people. I'm just going to say that now.
Yeah. If you mention wanting to raise them in the universe of the Cube, people judge you.
Mm-hmm.
And for the two of you that have seen that movie, you know. So
that is true.
Have you seen the Cube?
Yeah.
Okay. There's not a whole lot of people.
If it's what I'm thinking of.
Where the people are,
they're in the room. Yeah, they wake up. Yeah,
in basically a giant Rubik's cube that's full of traps.
Yeah, I've seen the first two of them. There's like 4, I think.
I've only seen the first one, but yeah,
yeah, because it was Cube, and then there was Cube 2, Hypercube. They're very Canadian movies. And I know that because like half the cast of Cube I've seen in other TV shows that were also very Canadian TV shows.
Yeah. I used to watch it. I don't know if that would be. I probably consider it a B-rate movie, but my dad was we watched all kinds of movies, and so yeah, that was definitely in the repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, let's go ahead and
roll that dice.
Yes, Bob. We will roll that dice. I will see you this weekend, Bob. All right. Well, I think we've got to go with the 4 now because we've already done the 5.
Yeah, apparently.
Parliament of Papas.
Parliament of Papas. So, I actually don't know. Do you have kids, Travis?
I do not.
Okay.
I had a stepson for a little while. Do not. He is now grown, and that was a whole thing. But nope, none of my own.
Okay. But as a brief stepfather,
Mm-hmm.
you can still weigh in on this, and I'm sure even if you were not a father in any regard, you would have thoughts. So, Is eating the kids' leftovers considered waste reduction or theft?
Now, are we talking? Because the context is important here.
Yep.
Are we talking like we've sat down for dinner, everyone has eaten, the kid ate but didn't finish, and have left for the night, and then I'm eating the rest of that plate? Or are we talking like dinner is done, everything is put away, the kid has their leftovers, maybe either from that dinner or brought home from a restaurant, and I'm raiding the fridge for
Let's say you've gone to a restaurant and you've boxed it up and you've brought it home.
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, Is eating the kids' leftovers considered waste reduction or theft?
I would say within the first 24 hours, it is considered theft. However, beyond that is waste reduction because let's face it, if that kid didn't eat it by the next day, they're not eating it.
That's fair. We have a 72-hour rule in our house. If it doesn't get eaten within the next 3 days, it's free game for anyone who wants to nom on it.
Nope. I approve this message.
It happens so frequently, and I had to remind my son on this past Saturday. My wife and our oldest went to a ramen restaurant. Local.
Okay.
And I've been there, very tasty, very good, but they give very large portions. So they both brought home some of their ramen. And it actually keeps relatively well. You know, a lot of ramen, it'll get soggy, but it actually keeps relatively well because there's so much fat and oil content that it congeals rather than remaining a liquid to soak in. But I had to remind him, I'm like, that ramen you brought home, it's going to be free game tomorrow. He was like, oh, I better eat it for lunch. And he did. He ended up eating it for lunch. But but yeah, no, we've got 3 days. You got 3 days. If it's not consumed within 3 days, free game for anyone in the house. Because 99% of leftovers, if it's still there after a week, maybe 10 days, it's trash. We're throwing it away. You know, you can't leave it in there for too long. Yeah,
typically that's about the length that you're going to go for cooked food anyways, 7 to 10 days. So you set that at 3 days. That's a good line of demarcation. And I think that's perfectly fair. They've had 3 days to eat it. If not, it's been forgotten about. And you can't complain. Now, you went the extra mile and reminded him, hey, by the way, you got one more day. Basically saying, like, you better eat that by tomorrow because tomorrow I'm eating it. And that is going above and beyond. And I respect that.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot left. And so it was like this much in a container like this big. And so I was like, that's taking up a lot of real estate in the fridge, kid.
Oh, yeah.
Take care of that.
Get that out of there.
But I mentioned it in front of his younger brother who absolutely loves this ramen place. And so he was like, oh, like his eyes got real big when he heard it was about to be free game. So it was going to get taken care of one way or another.
That's good. See, that's one thing I can't implement any of those rules because it's just me. And Bella back there's not getting any leftovers. As much as she wants.
That would make for an interesting discussion probably for Parliament of Pawpaws. Should you feed your dog table scraps? Because we'll get a lot of varying opinions on that, I think.
There are varying opinions. And also, dogs know the soft target. And they know who to go to. Because this one, I'll just
know the soft target too.
That's true. And I won't go too deep into it, but this one doesn't beg for food at home because she knows. But I take her to my parents' house. She just parks it right by my mom for the whole meal and waits because eventually she's getting something.
Oh, man, those soft targets.
Yep.
All right, let's see where we're going. We've got 2 and 3 left. So let's see if we can roll one of those. There we go. Got ourselves a 2.
All right.
Tell Mojo Jojo a story.
Okay. So, Daddy, tell me a story about technical issues at work. You kind of hinted in the pre-show.
I did.
You had some interesting stories about technical issues.
So I'll set the stage for you. Say you have a company and that company likes to grow via acquisition. It's a perfectly valid way to grow, but that means that you have a lot of technology from different areas that is effectively just duct taped and stapled together.
IBM.
And let's say that you want to then make some sort of a unified experience for your clients and bring all those disparate things together. Don't do it the way that we've been doing it, because they rolled it out, but then the rollout, it was just a comedy of errors, because it was, all right, we're rolling this out to everything. Well, no, we're going to roll it out to certain things. And then we do that. And then, okay, now we're going to roll it out to this. And that failed to the point of having to roll it back. And then the best part of it was, we roll everything back. Okay, it's fine. We found flaws. We figure we fix those. Great. All right, we're going to flip the switch on a Thursday. No, don't do that. All right. We won't do that. We'll do it next Tuesday. Cool. Monday rolls around. Well, we're going to do it on Wednesday. And then Tuesday hits. No, you know what? We're going to do it on Thursday again. And so they just kept like punting it. And I'm just sitting back, like, every day is like walking into that scene from Community, where you're Donald Glover with the pizzas, and you walk in and it's just things are on fire and somebody's over in the corner crying, and somebody, and I'm just like, so yeah. Test things, people. Don't test in production.
Yes.
And it feels, even though I know we're not doing that, it at times feels that way, and it just can drive you crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've got a project that I'm working on right now that we have asked. So at my current job, I am basically a system administrator slash a application support for a few applications.
Mhm.
And so we do setups for other teams, and then they do API calls and use our product is
Sure.
basically how it works. So we've got we are a small cog in a huge project that's rolling out.
Okay.
That they have delayed. The original go live date was May, I think, and it's still not officially live. Although we pushed a version of our stuff live because we didn't hear that they had pushed it back at one point. And so, but they've changed the requirements on us about 4 times. So the version that we put out there wouldn't fully meet the requirements anyway. It realistically, it'd only take a minor change. But anyway, regardless, we have asked about 4 times for the people who are going to be interfacing with our stuff to just send us an email and tell us that they've done testing and that it works. And it's very evident that they are not doing testing, because they asked us to set it up in 3 different non-production environments, and they have only used 1 of those non-production environments.
Oh, geez.
And one of the non-production environments is only halfway set up because they didn't give us the right configuration that they wanted for it. They told us, oh, this is how we want it configured, only to find out that the account that they wanted us to give access to it doesn't even exist.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's a lot of fun when you depend on other teams to provide you any kind of feedback, and they just ignore you.
And it's hard. Like, I know for us, part of it is just not having enough people. And so the people that are doing it are running around like crazy, trying to keep up. And you've got, mandates coming down from on high. We got to have this. We got to have this by now, all that kind of stuff. So it's just, it's one of those, everything that can go wrong does go wrong.
Yeah.
And then I feel like the Robin Williams line of, it's like riding a psychotic horse towards a burning stable.
But I suppose in defense of this project, the person who was originally in charge of the project got fired because they were mishandling it so badly. So, there is that. Yeah. Well, even today, as much as you try to plan something inevitably will go wrong at some point down the line.
Oh yeah.
So today we were rolling out an update to our to 3 of our servers. And we rolled out the update, we restarted everything and then we're checking to see if it was working. And about 2/3 of it was working. And the other third were like, "Ooh, what is going on?" We look at it and it's throwing authentication errors. We're like, "We've got the password. We've got the right password. Double check the password. Everything's good. We're using the right account." We're like, "What is going on here?" Because we hadn't run into this type of issue before with this type of update. Granted, this is the first time we've done this specific update, but they come within a certain vein of updates. And so what ended up happening is we needed to copy a masked version of the password to a specific configuration file in order for it to connect properly. So we had the right password, but also the wrong password at the same time because it wasn't the masked version that was getting set in the configuration. And so
gotta love stuff like that.
Yeah.
I had a real fun one with a piece of hardware, and we were getting this hardware from a vendor, and I was part of tested it, everything worked fine. We ended up saying, all right, we're going to go with it. So we had our staging environment and then our production environment. We took this piece of hardware and we said, cool, we're going to start rolling it out. So we did that, made the production environment, copied it, a carbon copy, start doing stuff. Another similar hardware piece, just a different model, like a nicer version of it, we started working on. And in testing that, I don't know how, but somewhere in the testing of that, it must have broken a feature on the older clock. It's a punch clock. That's the only thing I can think of, but it just stopped working. And I spent, hours with the vendor to figure that out. Until we finally did. And so then I'm like, cool. All right. We've got the fix. Excellent. And I go back to the production environment and I implement the fix and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because there was a switch that they use between viewing XML and viewing JSON. And we had it in the staging environment on JSON, and in the production environment, it was still on XML. And so it just, I was like, how do we miss that? But
yep. Yeah. We've run into that a few different times where our testing environment doesn't fully mirror the production environment and it causes issues. But I wonder how many people have now tuned us out or have fallen asleep. They put
one or the other. And you know what? I don't blame you.
White noise to fall asleep. But but the tech people are like, oh man, I can totally sympathize with that. And they get us. There are people.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking around.
Yeah, we see you.
The valiant few. We see you. Mm-hmm. You are the ones that know that turning it off and turning it back on really does fix a lot of issues.
Really does.
But anyway, we have one more segment left, and it is how do I? And some of these technical issues would lead to this how do I. In my department, we call major technical issues resume generating experiences.
Yes.
Because you'll need to find a new job afterwards. And that's what our how do I is. It's how do I find gainful employment?
If you have an answer to that, I'd like to know. It is like anything. There's a certain amount of work that you put into it, and there's also luck. My current position that I have was very much I happened to luck into it. I was working years ago at a Apple retailer, not an Apple store. We were an authorized like reseller because I live in an area that's not population dense enough to have an Apple store. We're not big enough. So I was working there, and I had a friend working at this company. And he's like, "Hey, we got a position opening up. You should, come check it out." And I just had he had been there for a little bit, and I met with the guy that was doing the hiring, and he and I got hit it off really well, and he was desperate to find somebody pretty quickly. So it was the luck of happening to hit it at the right time. But I had put in work and whatnot to get myself a skill set. So it's how do I find gainful employment is like be in the right place at the right time and just set yourself up for success. What do you want to do? Aim for that, and then keep going. I hate job hunting. It is easily top 3 of my least favorite things in the world, is hunting for a job, because I'm terrible at selling myself to begin with. And then, every time you do an interview, it can just be the worst thing. The worst interview I ever did was 2004. I applied for a job at Electronic Arts. It was EA Tiburon location in Orlando, Florida. And it was just a QA tester. Simple job. It had a phone interview. It had a second stage, which was an in-person interview. And then there was a third interview that was basically in front of a triumvirate. Like you walked into a room and there were 3 people sitting behind a table. And you got interviewed by all 3 of them at the same time. And that was top 5 worst experiences of my life, was that particular interview, especially when they ended with "tell us a joke." I'm like, oh, come on. Seriously, I can't just tell you. It was awful. But that kind of stuff, or having to play the game. I'm to a point now where I don't play the game anymore. If I can find a job that will let me be me, great. And I've run out of caring about putting on the show anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I've also found, because I have a job, it pays decently well, and I've been applying for new positions. I'm currently going through that right now. Because it never hurts to, even if you're happy with how much you make and happy with your job, it never hurts to look at what's out there and see the potential.
Absolutely.
But I've been applying for jobs and whatnot, and you and I were talking before the show. I had a second round interview, and I've been going into this the whole time of they need to sell me on the job, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I like my team. I like what I do right now. And if they're not willing to step up and sell me the position, even if they offer it to me, I'm going to say no. If it's not what I want. And I've done that before too. This was 2020, 2021. I got offers a position with a name brand place. I'm not going to say who, but even at my current salary 5 years later, I would have been making $30,000 more than what I'm currently making, is what the job offer was. But there were some seriously bad vibes during the interview process. And they also did a bait and switch on me as well. Because I applied for one position and they offered me a position lower than what I had applied for. And the salary that they offered was $20,000 less than what the other position's lowest range would have been.
Yeah,
so
I don't like that.
They did a bait and switch. There were some serious red flags during the interview process, and ultimately I was like, even though I'd be making more money, no, thank you.
Yeah. And I say this too, and I know I'm saying some of this from a place of privilege where I do have a job that does pay me well enough, and I do enjoy it for the most part, and I like my coworkers. So I do have that privileged position to be in where I can be selective. I have also been on the other end of that spectrum, which is I don't have a job.
I need a job.
And I need a job now, or I have nowhere to live. That's how I ended up doing professional carpet cleaning for a while. And driving a taxi cab, like
Yep.
these types of jobs that I've done, and I learned a lot doing them. But they were jobs of desperation, not of, that was I got to put food on the table.
Yep.
And
Well,
I like being in the position I'm in now, where I can be a lot more selective. I will
and
say that.
nowadays the job hunting environment is just so bad, because even you don't know if what you're applying for is even a real job half the time, because
Mhm.
there are a lot of companies that will post jobs just to say that they're hiring, even if there's not a real job
Yeah.
there. Or I've seen companies who have blatantly said, we're posting this just to see what kind of people we would get if we were to post this type of job in the future.
Yeah.
And they actually even sometimes do it to, they'll tweak the job description to see what the candidates would look like at the different one before they even, like,
Yeah. It's
they're refining it until they find what they want to post.
Mhm.
And my current work is really um the company is really predatory when it comes to making sure that your job title is they spend so much time researching job titles specifically so that they can say, we are paying you a fair market rate for your job title,
Mhm.
but then they expect you to do so much more stuff that someone with that job title would not be expected to do. So, like, oh, you're an an application support person instead of a software engineer, because software engineer has a higher expectation of salary and things.
Yeah.
And so, and they play those games so that they can honestly say that they are paying people competitively for their
Yeah.
job title.
Yeah,
And
and that goes to like what I was saying. That's the game that I hate, that I don't want to
yep.
play. And so, like, I do my job. I do my job well. But I don't. I am of the mindset that I am not going to do the extra things just because I'm there, um,
Yep.
because that's not part of my job. Now, will I help certain people? Yes, there are those that I will help. But life's too short to be like running yourself into the ground
Yep.
over, the pennies that especially large companies and large corporations. My company's fairly middle sized, so it's not quite as bad. But I see some of these, and it's even worse when you look at a big corporation that has all the way down to low wage workers and the way that those get treated. And that's the kind of stuff that really drives me absolutely batty. Is a company that makes billions of dollars in revenue a year, and yeah, you've got a lot of employees in a lot of locations, but you can take care of those employees, and you should, and not treat them
Yep.
like a disposable commodity, because we're not at the end of the day.
Yep. But yeah. So it, unfortunately, with the current environment, if you're looking for gainful employment, you are. I think the last statistic I heard was, you can expect to get one interview for roughly every 100 applications that you put in.
Yeah, it
Is
feels
what
about right.
the current environment is. And so you gotta cast a wide net, and you never know what's going to stick. Like my current job, when I looked at the application, I'm like, this is such a weird spread of skills. I'm like, they're not going to find anyone that has that weird set of skills, because
Yeah,
it was so far apart from what a normal job progression would look like. And I looked at it and I'm like, I meet about 75 to 80% of this. And I went in knowing they're not going to find anyone more qualified than I am for what they put on that paper,
yeah,
for what they put on that job description. It's just not going to happen. And so yeah, so I got the position. But even my first, so I've had 3 different positions at this company at this point. I've been working for them for almost 14 years now. And when I first hopped on, the timing was impeccable. I got so I originally got passed over for the position that I first got. They had hired someone else, and they didn't show up on their first day.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so they called me, and they were like, you still want that job? And so they called me on a Monday, asked me if I wanted the job. I'm like, okay, can I have 24 hours to think about it? They're like, yeah. And so I call them back, and I'm like, is there any room to negotiate the salary or anything? They're like, no, it's either take it or leave it. I'm like, all right, well, I'll take it. So they called me on Monday. I graduated college on Friday, and they paid for a moving company to come pack us up
Oh, wow.
and move all of our stuff on Saturday. And we had actually already had a moving truck ready. We were already planning on moving from where we were because we were living in a college town.
Sure.
So I didn't have a job lined up or anything. And so they paid for a moving company. They paid for our flights out there. They paid to ship our car out here. It's because we were moving from Idaho to Tennessee.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, they gave us a $5,000 moving expenses stipend for, temporary housing and things like that. And so we were going to be living with my in-laws. So we didn't have, to pay for temporary housing or anything like that. So what we did is I was very blessed in the fact that my wife didn't have any student loans for her bachelor's degree, and I had less than $4,000 in student loans from my time. This is a story for another time, but I showed up to college with $50 in my bank account, and so that first year I took out student loans, and I didn't have to take any more. But so with those moving expenses though, we paid off my student loans, and we had no student loan debt within a month of being done with college.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, super blessed in that regard. But they bait and switched me on the job, because what I applied for was a C++ programming position.
Okay.
In my nearly 14 years of this company, I have never written a single line of C++ code. Ever.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. They brought me in as a mainframe developer, writing JCL and COBOL and stuff that's, my father-in-law, who's in his 60s, did COBOL in college.
Right.
There's not a whole lot of people who do that these days.
No, not really.
And that's why they bait and switched me, because they couldn't find anybody to fill the role. And I remember during the job interview, they asked me some questions about the mainframe and about Java. And I was like, this is a C++ position. What? My first thing was like, what's a mainframe? But yeah. So, and I had a little bit of experience with Java at that point, and so yeah, they bait and switched me. But even with that, we were incredibly blessed to get for the timing to happen when it did. It saved us all those moving costs. We got the bonus, and I had a job because we were fixing to move here to Tennessee anyway, and we were going to live with my in-laws, and we were going to try to figure out where we were going to live after that, or what we were going to do. So it was a blessing, and sometimes you just gotta take those opportunities when they come, even if when you don't have a job, and you got to be like, okay, I need work. But then there's instances like you and I have been talking about when you have a job already and you're looking for something better, and you can take your time and be more selective, and you can have that mentality of I may be interviewing with you, but you're also interviewing with me.
Yeah. And understanding your worth and going into things with that kind of a mindset is super helpful, right? Because you're right. Like, you're interviewing for them because you're going to be spending a bunch of time there, and it's important, I think. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, and equally important to the job itself is the company culture, in my
Yep.
opinion.
Oh yeah.
If not a little bit more so than the job itself. Because I've worked with terrible bosses, and it is night and day. I've had, and I've talked about this some on the show, where I had a position that it was going swimmingly, going great, and our manager left. We got a new manager, and the new manager sucked, and he hated me. Like
Hmm.
I found out afterwards that he tried to get me fired, and my team lead went over his head to our director and said, "Yeah, no, we're not getting rid of Joe. It's not happening." And
I've had very similar.
and so it makes such a night and day difference when your leadership changes like that, because the culture shifts so much with leadership. And yeah, so yeah, when you're interviewing, it's not just the job. Make sure you ask, because they inevitably ask, do you have any questions for us? Ask about the culture
Mhm.
of the job. Ask about how much they respect work life balance, and ask these questions. You need to
Ask
find
about
out.
turnover.
Yeah.
You know, how long does your average person stay? Like in depending on the department, that can vary wildly. And sure, like something like sales is going to have a higher turnover at any company. That typically happens. But like there's people at my company that have been working there 20 years or more. And some, you know, so yeah, I'm with you. Definitely always ask those questions.
Yep. Well, and I don't know if this still works, but for a while there, as a small tip, for a while there, what people had recommended to me on my resume is fill out the resume, but then at the very bottom in white, so that it's not noticeable, and make it, super, super tiny. Put in buzzwords, because they are filtering a lot of these resumes through AI. And if specific buzzwords aren't found, even if you qualify, even if you're fully qualified, but you didn't use a specific buzzword, the AI will filter you out. And so I've heard a lot of people will put that at the bottom of the resume, some of those buzzwords, because just to make sure they get past the AI filters, because
fact
people
that
are feeding them through that.
Yeah, the fact that we have to do search engine optimization for resumes now is we're truly living in the worst timeline. let's be real. Like that is just some awful stuff, but it's true, and it's sadly a good tip to do.
Yep. And I've, for years and years and years, I kept my resume to a single sheet.
Mhm.
And I don't anymore. If they're not going to scan through it, I do keep it to 2 sheets still. But I'm just like, I've got enough experience to warrant 2 sheets, people. And so
Yeah.
and it's just like, and there's stuff that I've dropped off my resume that I used to involve, just because I didn't have more to put on there. Like, I used to put on there my when I first applied for this position, I had my Burger King experience on my resume when I first applied for this company, because
Sure.
I didn't have professional experience. But then you have to be creative with how you express those things. Talk about skills that you learned that are relevant to the workplace in general.
Oh yeah.
So, like, working at Burger King, I learned how to have much better interpersonal skills, dealing with difficult personalities and things, spin it in such a way that it's relative to what you're doing. And so you'll also notice that most positions will include, these are the musts, and these are the things that we would like.
Yep.
And so oftentimes, especially if it's one that you really want, you'll need to have several different copies of your resume, so that it's tailored to specific positions.
Oh, absolutely. So, absolutely.
Because they want you to emphasize the things that that they are putting in the job description.
Mhm.
So, but do you have any other nodes of wisdom, nuggets of wisdom to help people looking for jobs?
I mean, the biggest one I think is know pardon me. Know yourself. Like, try to be as confident in yourself as you can be. Don't, without coming across as arrogant, but be confident in yourself and know yourself enough to, like you said earlier, be able to go into an interview realizing you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And it's hard to do because you can be in that position where you're like, I'm desperate for a job. I just need to keep food on the table. Okay. That's a totally different situation. But if you're looking for gainful employment, really understand yourself and what are you looking to get out of this job? Is this just going to be punching a clock, work in the factory, and then you're going to do stuff outside of that? Or is this going to be a thing that you can use skills that you enjoy and enrich? So are you looking for a job? Are you looking for a career type of thing? I know that's kind of cliched, but it's really true.
Yeah.
Like, there are jobs and there are career things that you enjoy doing, and try to understand what it is you're looking for at that point. What do you need out of this?
Yep. Well, and just like I said, you need to be getting a vibe check for their work culture.
Mhm.
A lot of times they're trying to get a vibe check from you as well.
Oh yeah.
To see if you'll mesh with their culture. And actually, my current position, they blatantly told me that when they reached out to my previous team, it was for vibe check. It wasn't for qualification. They were trying to see how well I would mesh with their team. It just so happened that they knew personally several of the people from my previous team, and so I immediately passed the vibe check there. Um, and so yeah, finding those connections can be great. One thing that I don't know the answer to, and I'm curious, and you might not know the answer either, but at the end of every job application, there is the voluntary self-identification things.
Mhm.
What is the best scenario for filling that out? Because it asks for race, gender, um, veteran status, and disability, and things of that nature.
Mhm.
What do you think is the best way to fill that out?
Whatever you are comfortable with and who you feel you are. So if for you those things are not anything that is anyone else's business, you can absolutely do the, not applicable or prefer not to disclose or whatever. A lot of that is kind of holdovers from sort of old hiring practices, and they just got to tick the boxes of, yes, we tried.
Yeah.
Yes, we accepted these applications, that kind of stuff. But I always just put down, like, I'm straight white male with no veteran status. That's just who I am, and that's what you're getting. But if for you that is a thing that just doesn't matter and you don't think it should matter, go that route. But because the end of the day, you mentioned it with they're running all these resumes through AI and they're looking for the buzzwords, and a lot of these big companies are taking and cross-referencing the names with all sorts of algorithms, and all of that is happening anyway. So just be who you are at the end of the day, and whatever is important to you. And if they don't like that, if you voluntarily saying, I'd prefer not to answer is the thing that pushes them away, then that's not the job for you.
Yeah.
And that's not the place you want to be. Go on.
Yeah, because I have applied. So I had a friend who he's actually he's job hopped a couple of times since then. But 4 or 5 years ago when I was looking for a new job, he said, "Oh, apply with us." And so I applied at his job, and a month or two went by, and I didn't hear anything. So I followed up with him like, "Hey, did you hear anything internally? Did they just pass me up and just not say anything?" So he asked, and his manager blatantly said, "Yeah, we're not hiring white guys right now." And obviously, it's a hearsay situation. But if that had been documented, that would be very much a lawsuit waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Because that is very much not allowed. But it happens, and so that's why ever since then, I don't know. I've been a little gun shy about those last questions, and so most of the time I put prefer not to answer, and then other than the disability and the veteran status, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't have a disability and I'm not a veteran, because I never want to misrepresent having military service ever.
Absolutely.
That is not what I want to do, and so regardless of what they have there, I'm just like, nope, I am not. But yeah,
yep.
I don't know what the correct answer is, and I guess I would need to talk to somebody and it's going to vary company to company on how they view those, because they're not supposed to use those to determine who they're hiring.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't say it's not going to be there,
right? Yeah.
So
and again, it just kind of comes back to like, I do honestly believe you're going to end up where you're supposed to be at some point. So if that's a deal breaker for them, then it's a deal breaker for you, and you don't want to be there anyway. You don't need that in your life, and you can find something else. You will find something. It's a question of when and how much work you're going to put in, and if you're in the right spot at the right time.
Yep. Well, this has been awesome. If you're in the job hunt, best of luck to you. May the odds be ever in your favor.
Yes.
And we're going to call it a night.
All right.
Follow these nerdy dads on social media. Charles at Rock God of Podcasting. Joe at Joseph_Ard. Check out the website, wiseandnerdy.com. And as always, they may not be your father, but they'll always be your daddy.
And I'll have to see Charles all weekend, which that'll be fine. It'll be fine.